Rugby World Rankings. I haven't done these for a while, and I wasn't going to have a look at them until after the Six Nations when we would likely see a little bit more change. But with no rugby on the horizon for some time, you might as well just have a look at them now. Any chance, I guess, also to bust out the Tonga rugby kit is also a welcome one. It's one that I don't get to wear that much, but yeah, I'll go through some of the ones who are kind of in the top 14, the ones that I can fit on my board. I probably could have gone 16, but there we go. Gone with 14. And yeah, you guys can let me know how you think these teams maybe should be ranked in actuality. Because if you aren't that familiar with the Rugby World Rankings, essentially they're kind of a bit flawed in that they're pretty tough on teams like Argentina and Italy, who generally are good teams. I know people will argue with me about Italy for that one, but they play against better teams. So, yeah, if they were to play some of the teams around them and potentially above them, you might back them to win. But against the teams which are generally on this side of the board, they tend to come up short. But every now and again, we'll get the odd win. So, yeah, start with the top. South Africa, New Zealand. These teams haven't moved. They haven't played since the Rugby World Cup. South Africa are world champions. And that generally secures you number one spot. Well, it pretty much ensures you will be number one after the World Cup. And they may stay there for quite some time, depending on how long we have to wait to play some rugby. But 94.19 are the box, and the All Blacks still there at 92.11, so no change for those teams. Some people last time I did the video in the middle of Six Nations kind of said, seems a bit unfair that New Zealand retained second, even though they didn't make the World Cup final. You would think the teams that are 1 and 2 would be the two teams who made the final, but the nature of the way the World Rankings work, and I promise at some point a video on how the rankings work, but essentially you pick up double points during a World Cup, and New Zealand's final game was a win, so they were bumped up, whereas England's final game was a loss, so they were bumped down. And remember, it's double, so it's double up and double down. So yeah, despite the fact that England beat New Zealand are still there in number 2. England are stable at number 3. They haven't changed since the last time I looked at the World Rankings, so they are there on 88.41. And in the Six Nations, they've been, apart from that first game against France, they've been looking pretty solid. So I guess it's kind of a fair reflection. Ireland are there at number 4, 84.91. Ireland is still kind of hard to know where they're at because they got a new coach, Andy Farrell, and his start to his start with Ireland has been solid without being spectacular. I mean, if you look at Wales, who are down there in 6th, and they've moved from the last time I looked at the rankings, they were in 5th. You know, Wayne Pivac's start has been a bit rockier in terms of picking up a few losses on the trot. I've said before that I still think he'll get it right, and it takes a while to adjust things and for guys to get used to, your game plan, and guys coming in and out with injury and whatnot. So, yeah, for Andy Farrell, it's been, like I said, solid without being spectacular. And like with Pivac, I would hope that there's still the best to come. Once he gets things the way that he wanted them, but coming as the former assistant, maybe that time frame should be a bit shorter, and maybe that's why the start has been not so rocky. France, their new coaching regime seems to be working a treat in terms of Fabien Galtier getting these guys to be a serious contender in the Six Nations. They did lose their last game in something of a disappointing one in Scotland. But prior to that point, we're looking on course for a potential Grand Slam. It was still early days. You don't win a Grand Slam, in the first kind of 4 games. But, yeah, they were still looking pretty good, man, compared to the teams in the last few years anyway. So, yeah, France are up since the last time I looked at the rankings, 82.73, so a little bit behind Ireland, and kind of on a par with Wales, who are down to 82.64. So, yeah, these two teams are pretty similar. Then there's kind of 2 points or 4 points between most of these teams. So, fair. I still feel like on these teams' days, pretty much any of these teams beat each other, on the right day. Australia, no movement, 7, 81.9. And then Traditionally, there's a bit of a drop between them and Scotland, but Scotland, with that win over France, have jumped up to 8th, 80.68. Japan down because Scotland lost, essentially. That's because Scotland won, essentially. And all these teams pretty steady. I guess one of the big losers is Italy. They're down from the last time I looked, 71.07, which puts Tonga up. So hence the Tongan kit for this one. So yeah, not much movement on that side, but then you just got to look at which teams have been playing. Outside the top 14, Samoa is 15, USA 16. USA is actually up. Uruguay is 17, Spain 18, Romania 19, Russia up into the top 20. So yeah, there's been a bit of movement in the rugby rankings, and not any to come with no fixtures, as I said, on the immediate horizon. So yeah, like I said, I like to think any of these teams can probably beat each other. Scotland, Japan, Argentina, Fiji are probably in that same boat, but maybe not as expected. It's probably more of an upset if Scotland, Japan, maybe to a lesser extent Argentina, Fiji beats the likes of kind of England, Ireland and whatnot. So, you know, at the World Cup, Japan were a bit of a surprise package. Yeah, Scotland, their record against the All Blacks is not the best, but yeah, I still feel like Italy is probably good value to beat Georgia. Tonga, depending on the players they can get to play, tend to have a bit of variation in the way their results go. But I think their World Cup form showed they're a better team than some of their pre-World Cup games and whatnot. So yeah, that's how the Rugby World Rankings are sitting. As I said, it's not going to move for a while because there's not going to be any rugby on. But yeah, what do you guys reckon? How fairly do you think this ranks the teams? Do you think France are better value at the moment than 5th, or do you think it's kind of supposed to be a gradual progression rather than a sudden one? Do you think Wales really deserve to go down to 6th? I think South Africa, nobody's going to argue with them being number 1. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you're getting on with there being no rugby announced, watched. I know there's kind of rumours about things going on. New Zealand here, they're supposedly working on some kind of substitute competition with Super Rugby being off, but we will have to wait and see. Travel restrictions and everyone's health taking priority. So as always, stay safe, guys. Wash your hands. Just take care. And yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.